Hi guys, and welcome back to a new episode of Grenzenlos, your dance podcast. This episode is sponsored by Sister Dancers. So we are currently having a collaboration. If you use our code podcast10, you get 10% off of your whole purchase. Sister Dancer is a female-founded brand from Germany who offers aesthetic and functional dancewear created by a dancer for dancers. They have amazing sets for different styles. Guys, I already got mine. It's amazing. I mainly use it for Pilates and chest and heels, to be honest. And I'm not only saying that because I'm promoting it, but like for real, those sets are really, really comfortable. So I can 100% recommend it. So make sure to go check it out. Their Instagram is linked down below right now. Also, guys, make sure to stay updated. Go follow our Instagram. Give us a thumbs up, a 5-star recommendation wherever you can, and especially if you feel like it. And yeah, we're back to our 2-week rhythm after this episode. So I hope you enjoyed your summer special, let's put it like that. And also the code for our collaboration is only valid for August anymore. So go use that and yeah, make use of it. So now to the episode. I'm here with Emma Rosa today. Thank you so much for making time.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
So my name is Emma Rosa. I am a professional dancer, choreographer, and teacher based in New York City, which is where I am right now. As a professional dancer, I've been doing professional dance for about 8 years. I started with professional tap dance, and then I made my way into professional backup dancing, which is more hip hop and heel stuff. As a professional backup dancer, I've danced for people like 50 Cent, Trey Songz, Snoop Dogg at like big venues around the world. So it's been really beautiful. And as a teacher, I travel the world teaching. I just got back from hosting 2 international retreats in Costa Rica, which was great. And I teach all the time in New York City. And my main purpose when it comes to my work is to heal our relationship with our bodies and our sexuality. So that's kind of what I'm about.
You said 8 years. That's actually, I mean, like it's long, of course, but it's actually not that long. I thought you were one of those people who started like at 4 or something.
Well, no, because I didn't do professional work until I was almost an adult. Yeah, so I started doing professional work when I was like 17, 18. I just exposed my age. I'm 25. I turned 26 in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
so okay, guys, if you hear that, her birthday's already like 2 months ago. Okay.
You can wish me happy birthday on my Instagram retroactively.
Exactly. I actually want to start with some thoughts that I had. So those thoughts are a bit raw, so I didn't think them through completely yet, but I would love to get some input from your side as well. So yeah, just guys, to give you a little bit of an overview, this episode is going to be about a little bit about sexual misconduct in the dance scene, what is like the lines of it, etc. We're going to talk about, heel dance, the perception, being a sexual being, sensuality, big topics.
Yeah.
We're going to see where we're going to go with that, because I guess like you could talk endlessly about it. So yes, exactly.
I'm ready.
So okay, I'm gonna give you a bit of a background about what I'm gonna say now, so it makes it a little bit more sense, okay? Because I was actually going home from it was a dance class, and I was going home, and we were in the car, a friend of mine and me, and she was asking me, okay, can you give me any feedback? How do you think I can improve in my dance? And I was like, okay, we can talk about technique, we can talk about skills, we can talk about, okay, you need to get your lines better, blah, 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 all of that technical stuff. But what I was talking about with her was actually the fact you need to get to know yourself, because I'm going to give you an example of what I mean, because I think that I'm currently reflecting on a lot is you do your art how you live. And I think that is like in each art scene a thing, not only in dance, but you live your art and your life is your art, but your art is also your life, it's like both sided in each way. So for an example that you guys get what I mean, a friend of mine, she when she choreographs, when she dances, she has a lot of hand placement. She's like, a lot of flowy stuff with her hands. And the thing is, what I mean, for example, when you watch that woman talk, like just randomly talk, she's like gesturing her way all around her body while talking as well, so that makes so much sense why she moves like that, So I think I also have that for me, and I guess like the way you react to my story now, you're agreeing, I guess.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I feel like the word that sparked for me in my brain is embodied. So to me, the idea of being embodied is that you bring your full self, whoever you are, into every space that you're in.
Mm,
So when you bring your body into a dance space, you're still bringing all of the other parts of yourself. If you're bringing
mm,
yourself into a dating space, you're bringing all of those other parts of yourself. So I think what you're witnessing with her, or what we could see with someone who really knows themselves in the dance space, is that they're fully embodied in not only them as a dancer, but them as a human being, you know?
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And also I think that's like, we can talk about the skills part, but that's a part that's like you of course you can learn it at dance class and embody it, but that's work you need to take home to get to know yourself. And
Yes.
wait, I just lost my thought. Amazing.
That's okay. We'll redirect you.
Okay. Yes, wait, let me think. Let me think. I was I was with that. Wow, guys, I
You,
had that planned through so amazingly.
well, you were talking about the idea of giving someone corrections, but not correcting them on their body, but telling
Mhm,
them that they need to get to know themselves better.
mhm, mhm. Ah, exactly. Another point that I want to mention is that's also a reason why, like nobody will ever dance like me, and I'm not ever going to be dancing like somebody else because nobody has my life experience, and I don't have the life experience of somebody else. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I was talking with another friend, the reasons why we move, we were talking about some traumas we had in our lives, and some of that, you know, the way we move now, it's not rooted in trauma, but like, of course, it's kind of triggered something to, I don't know, let's give a simple uh, ejemplo as well. Brain is braining in all languages again, guys. Like if you had a boyfriend who was like not allowing you to dress a certain way, and now you're like in your heel class and dressing, you
That
know
was me.
exactly. That's also
Yeah.
like something that happened in your life. And so that's now the bridge I wanted to build to that topic, because
Mhm.
actually I was thinking about that as well, and I think there's more than one side to ourselves we have, of course.
Yeah.
We're not only the person that you guys see on Instagram, let's put it like that.
Mhm.
But it's especially or as well with heel stands. There's certain conceptions about it, because just because the way I move doesn't mean, because there's a perception of you're a hoe, you're a slut, the way you move.
Mhm.
That means like you're selling your body, you're exposing yourself, and I think like that's a point. Just because the way I move doesn't mean like I'm a hoe in real life, whatever that word means, So that's a topic I wanted to bring up with you because I think it kind of connects with what we're going to talk about. And I wanted to
Yeah.
get your opinion. And also, I'm gonna link it a little bit to the other episode with Julia and Sarah, we had. So guys, I'm pretty sure they're watching right now. I think you would love Emma Rosa and the other way around. So you should get each other. And they were saying from their history, they're twins, and they were like saying, okay, they had their heels career, the way they dance, but they were virgins for a long, long time. So
Mm.
everybody around them who were like talking, oh, they're such hoes, the way they dress, the way they dance, blah, blah, blah. They were like, oh, guys, if you would only know. So that's
Mhm.
the point where I started to think that it's like, it's not at all connected to your sex life, to your what is happening, but at the same time the sensuality is connected, so you know what I mean. So that's a topic I want to bring up, so give me your thoughts. Let's go.
Yeah. So the first thing that I think about is, because in our world today,
Mhm.
sexuality and sex is seen as such a taboo topic to speak about, and less
Yeah.
so now than it used to be, right? Because we have big artists like Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion singing things like WAP and like bongo and stuff like that. So everyone's talking about these things, particularly, let's say, AFAB people or women's sexuality. I think that's seen as even more taboo and more niche. And so, what this makes me think about is the idea that because people are nervous to talk about this, they lump everything that has to do with sexuality under one umbrella. So, when someone expresses or shows any facet of their sexuality, automatically our minds go to, well, if they're sexy in this way, or if we perceive them as sexy or
Mhm.
sensual, then they must also be sexy in these other ways or use their body in these other ways. There are assumptions that are made because people aren't talking about the different facets of our sexuality and how we utilize understand and express that. And so for me, I've also known people who, and even me starting out in my heels journey, not having had that much sexual experience, like me and those other people, we are through heels dancing, understanding our body and how we want to connect ourselves with our sexuality in our body, having nothing to do with any experience or lack of experience that we've had with other people's bodies. There's a misconception that your sexuality has to inherently do with somebody else, but your sexuality is a relationship between you and the pleasure sensors of your body, and allowing yourself to feel empowered within the natural pleasure that our body can feel. And then when I always say to my students, like, your sexuality is a gift. So you have to understand and nurture that first. And then if you choose to share that with someone else, they should feel blessed. And if they don't feel blessed, then break up with them. But so what it makes me think about is just this misconception, particularly from what would be considered a male gaze, that when someone who is perceived as feminine, or let's say for me, a woman, is embodying and expressing their sexuality unapologetically, then that means that she is also trying to do that with somebody else, but the two things are completely separate. And I think that's also why so many women have trouble or shame with understanding how to orgasm, because we're taught to keep that part of our sexuality only for a partner.
I love that topic as well. Okay, that's interesting.
You know what I mean? I have a lot of experience with that, so
let's go.
But I've been very like sexual since I was basically like a little kid. I've always like, without understanding what it meant. And so I think heels dancing has helped me understand how and redefine how I want to have a sexual relationship with my body apart from anybody else, which also helps to heal what we mentioned, some of that trauma. Because when you're reestablishing your relationship with your sexuality as a relationship to self, then you can eliminate or disintegrate some of the ties that you have with sexuality and trauma, because those things become more separate if you're redefining how you want to have a sexual relationship with yourself, if that makes sense.
What I was thinking about as well, because we brought up the orgasm topic, is like, you know, the topic of, if you don't know how to do it, how can you show somebody else to do it? And I think it's like, when we talk about dance, the same way, also like the way it's not, but like it's connected. The way I express my sensuality, my sexuality, has something to do with me, how I get to know myself. And not another person teaches me that. So actually, that was the thought that just came up in my head.
And if you allow somebody to teach you that, quote unquote, or if you're waiting hoping for someone else to show you the way, then you're putting so much power in other people regarding your own sexuality. And then that's why we end up in situationships like certain types of, and I speak from personal experience, certain types of abusive dynamics or toxic dynamics in relationships, because we've given all of our power within this sexuality to your partner. And so the partner has that power over your sexuality. And if they're not good for you, they might misuse that. And then it creates an even more complicated relationship with your body and your sexuality that you have to unlearn and unravel over time. Like when I ended up in a really bad relationship for 2 years. I've only been in one long-term relationship with a label. And it was after I had experienced all of the sexual trauma. And he was the first person who I felt really appreciated my body for more than just what it could do sexually. But then when we became boyfriend and girlfriend, when we got into a relationship, I felt like that he had many more opinions and a lot more power over my sexuality, because I had reestablished my safety, or the safety that I needed in my body, and I related it to my relationship with him, instead of processing the trauma that I had experienced and recreating a safer relationship for myself within my own body. I almost had him do it for me. And then I ended up in a relationship that wasn't good for me sexually or otherwise. And when I left that relationship, that's when I started to, what you had mentioned before, wear less clothes when I was dancing and feel more free overall to express my sexuality without shame. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know how we got here, but that's what I was thinking.
No, but like that's amazing. No, but like I can relate, because I only have like, I didn't have like an abusive relationship, but I have been in one relationship, a long-term one, only one in my life. And there's no bad story, but like now having, it sounds so, I don't want to make it sound rude, but like now having my own life, being on my own,
Yeah.
I got to know myself so much better in each way possible. And I feel more secure in myself than I've ever been in my life. And I think God bless him, you know, but I think it was like a good thing this happened, because otherwise, I don't think I would have developed with him on my side as I did now, you know? And I think there's certain stuff that I mean, I don't want to say like I don't have, you know, that's my experience as well now. I'm sure you can discover all of that with a partner as well. But I just want to say, you know, being able to be alone, to spend time alone and figure stuff out for yourself, that's work. That's exhausting, but it also brings you far in that context. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that if you were to explore that with a partner, your partner would just have to be really okay with you exploring your freedom and your independence, because I think you do need a certain level of independence even within a partner dynamic to be able to explore that fully. And I think so when you're single, like we both had experiences when we were single after our relationships, that it was easier to explore and redefine that, because you don't have to worry about anybody else. You don't have to think about anybody else. So if you're in a partnership and you're exploring that, it's possible, but you just need a lot of communication, trust, and allowance for freedom and independence. Yeah.
Yep, that's true. If there would not be all of the Selbstzweifel, oh my God, guys. Self-doubts, there we go.
Yes.
All of the anxiety, self-doubts, critics we have, insecurities, you know, that of course, all the baggage we bring into a relationship. And of course, if you deal with your baggage alone, there's nobody else included. And of course, we have friends and people around us who love us, you know, like.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. Like, of course, it's also love, but like having somebody so close to you is still different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think if you live in a world or you live in a reality where you're mostly a monogamous person, because obviously monogamy is not the only way now, but if you are someone who lives with a relationships and sexuality within like a monogamous viewpoint, then it's the one person who is closest to you, also to your body, and the one person who you allow to explore that side of yourself, because usually we don't do that with friends. And if you're doing that with friends, go off, because maybe you're just having fun.
There you go, guys. Do we want to go a little bit to, because you mentioned that you had, or you're having a history with an abusive relationship, you had that in your life.
Yeah.
That's also the reason why you're doing what you're doing right now, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now, a lot of different things that have culminated to this point in my life, to showing me, like revealing my purpose to me, or giving me this calling with teaching and healing. So when I was between 18 and 21, I think I was very naive to like keeping myself safe, and like the unspoken rules of what's safe and what's unsafe within sexual relationships, particularly in the dance space. So I had ended up in several what I would consider dangerous situations with dancers and teachers, that ended up giving me a lot of sexual trauma to process afterwards. I ended up in the pandemic. I think the pandemic, like quarantine, was almost like a blessing for me, because, and I know it was very hard and very difficult for most people, but just speaking for myself, I did experience hardship as well, but I think it allowed me the space to process without being around people or being around the environment that caused my trauma. So I processed a lot, and then I fell in love with my first boyfriend, and I think I gave him too much power over my body and my sexuality, because I really just had a need to feel safe physically. Because before that, I had not felt safe physically with any partner. And then we ended up together. We were together for like 2 years. But as it progressed, one aspect of our relationship that I felt very controlling and manipulative is when I would wear certain things to dance, and nothing, like if you know me on my Instagram now, like I'm really like half naked on my Instagram. I don't care.
But you like gorgeous.
I'm like, oh my God, that shawty is so cute in her bikini. That's how I feel when I look at myself. But
In
but at
jeans?
the time, I wasn't wearing stuff like that. I usually was wearing like sweatpants and a bikini top, or like short shorts and a crop top, but not like those underwear short shorts that go, the underwear short shorts that go all the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Not those
You know
ones.
what I'm always
Like
thinking?
regular.
Like I'm always
What?
thinking, like, how do you guys manage that it
To keep
stays
the
where it's
pussy in?
supposed to stay?
A prayer and lots of trust.
Okay.
More trust in my vagina than in that man. So at the time, I would post like, he had seen me dance. Like I didn't change really at all about the way that I danced or what I wore before we got together. And then when we got together, I stayed pretty consistent. But because we were together, I know he assumed that I should not be doing certain things now. Like, how when you get with a partner, obviously, like if you're monogamous, you're not supposed to like cheat on them. Like that's an unspoken rule that you don't need to say. I think for him there were a lot more, and for a lot of like hyper masculine men, there are a lot more unspoken rules that I was not aware of, because my parents' relationship growing up, my dad's not like that. They have a lot of independence and freedom. So I didn't assume that my partner would be like that, which was just me learning a learning experience because it was my first relationship. So I remember specifically one time, this happened a few times, I had posted a video from like a year before we started dating. So I had already posted it. I just reposted it because I was reteaching the choreo. And he called me crying. And I was literally wearing like short shorts, like those regular short shorts, and a crop top. He called me crying, telling me that he was embarrassed because his friends would see the video and that my vagina was out, which it wasn't. I know my boundaries for myself. My vagina was not out, and if she was, but she wasn't.
I mean, they should feel blessed.
And he told me, if this is something that you need, then we shouldn't be together. And I was really confused.
An ultimatum.
Yes. And the thing, after like going through that experience, I look back on it and I'm like, hey, if he doesn't want to be with someone like that, that's fine. He's allowed to be with whoever he wants to be with. If he wants to find a woman who is already who he wants her to be. But I think the problem was that he wanted to change me into who he wanted me to be in order to fit what he felt comfortable with, instead of allowing me to be who I was. So to each their own, but the manipulation part of it is that we're already a year into this. It's 2 weeks before my birthday. It's 1 week before our anniversary. And you're telling me that you're embarrassed.
Oh my God, that's stress. That's like
yes,
when you have like,
you're telling me that, yes, that you're embarrassed of me. So shaming me, and so for me, I did end up, like many people do, staying with him for another year after that, because I did not know myself the way that I do now. And I'm sure next year and 2 years from now, I'm going to be looking back right now and say I didn't know myself the way that I do now, But after that relationship, once I had the courage to fully disconnect from that person and our dynamic, what I realized is, as I started exploring what I wore, how I danced, what made me feel good and what didn't make me feel good, I realized how trapped I felt within my sexuality in that relationship, and how much I tied my sexuality to that person. And now I can confidently say at this point in my life that my sexuality is its entire like magical creature on its own that lives in my body, that has nothing to do with anybody else. And I've allowed myself to really set up boundaries for myself and for the people that I enter relationships with, because I've gotten to know myself in that way. And I also am aware of, when I was in that relationship, I felt much more judgmental of other women privately. I would never say it out loud, but privately. And I'm very like honest about that part, because I think some women feel that way, but they don't say it because they feel embarrassed or ashamed to admit that they were judgmental at one point. But because of the dynamic that I was in with that man, I did not feel free in my sexuality. So when I saw another person feel completely free in their sexuality, I would be triggered. So now I understand that when I'm on my Instagram feeling free in my sexuality, when people tell me that I'm provocative, or that why does she have to wear that? Why does she have to do that? I know, because I was in their place, that they just don't feel free. It's a trigger for them. And so it doesn't bother me to the same extent, because I know the freedom and the empowerment that I feel now at this point in my life and my sexuality. So I wish the same for them. And I wish that they go through the same experience that I did, all the good parts of the transition between feeling trapped within your sexuality to feeling free in your sexuality. And again, that's like what I work on in my classes, like really trying to speak on these kind of subjects and allow people to explore their freedom in my class so that it translates outside of the room.
Yeah, that's the same topic again. We don't only say the dance because we take our whole life in it, and we take a lot of dance out in our life again. Yes, it's not separated. But I do agree, because I think sometimes as well, if we're talking about bodies, you know, especially with heels dance, there was a time that's like, it's still the same topic, but I'm kind of like a little bit. Because there was last year, there was a time where I wasn't quite happy with my body, because there was a person making a comment that I gained weight, and I was like, I felt comfortable in my body, but now I don't feel anymore because of that comment. It wasn't not even a bad comment. It was a, oh, you know, the new form of your face looks good, and you know, it's like, what form of my face? I was like, what happened? You know,
one of my favorite authors, she's also a podcaster. Her and her family always say, mind your own body. I love that idea, because even when you're complimenting someone's body, when you think it's a compliment, it brings their focus to their body, and we don't need a hyper focus on our bodies.
And the thing is, I was like, I see myself in the mirror each day I'm training. I'm actually happy with my body, you know? It just changed because of one comment, and that, you know, triggered me a little bit, that I was like, you know, making some adjustments that were not healthy. However, I pulled myself out of it a month later, so didn't last long. I have amazing friends who were like, but one friend also told me, do you think that the way, because that it might be a reason that you feel uncomfortable because you're in so many commercially classes where people dress up, put their makeup on, make their hair, maybe wear not a lot of clothes? And I was like, actually, I get where this person was coming from, but I don't think that's the reason, because that isn't, for me, that was not the reason, you know, because I didn't feel uncomfortable in classes. But I also, it made me think, because of course, maybe because you have a lot of beautiful women in such classes, and I get that some people might, it's hard to enter a class if you're like, oh my god, they're all like dressed like that, they look like that, I need to look like that too. You don't, you can come in joggers and feel sexy however you want the fuck to, you know, so you don't need to. But I get that this is, you know, also a point that's like happening. So I also understand the point that you mentioned, that if we're talking about bodies, you know, sometimes if people, they wouldn't say it, or a lot of people wouldn't say, but like, maybe you're just jealous of the person because she's showing her body, and maybe she's showing her body because her body is like, I don't know, maybe she's skinny, maybe she's musculous, maybe she has something that you wish your body to look like. But that is not what it's about. It's not about showing your body because you look like that. It's about showing your body because you feel your body. And I think that's an important point to mention as well, because sometimes I have the feeling it's like, oh, I'm just jealous, I can't dress like that because my body doesn't look like that. But that's not the thing. And I think that's the point where people start to get like a little bit of negative energy, like the jealousy as well, where they feel like trapped in their body or trapped in their surroundings, whoever taught them to think like that, whatever, you know, that it's like, you know, a whole circle of, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. The phrase that popped into my mind while you were talking about that is rebellion is just as much of a cage as compliance is. So the idea that let's say with our sexualities, for example, because a lot of times you're talking about the idea of comparison and comparing bodies, right? So what it makes me think about is society largely wants, let's say, again, just speaking for myself, women to be what they call a lady in the street, but a freak in the bed, right? You keep the freak part private and you keep the lady part public. So if we were to comply with that, that would be a cage, versus if society wants that ideal, but then we rage against what society wants. So we then are doing all of the, what would be considered sexually explicit things in public or on Instagram or whatever it might be. That's also a cage, because the only way to be free is by you to sit with yourself, ask yourself deeply what feels right to you, and then follow that. Because either way, if you're complying with what society wants or you're rebelling against what society wants, you're still centering yourself around what society wants. You're not centering yourself around what you want because you haven't asked yourself. And so I think the misconception with heels dancing is that everyone is like rebelling against what society wants, and by wearing what we wear and dancing how we dance, that we're trying to like seek attention, which is not the case
Or to
for
lure somebody in. That's also the
most
thing that I
people.
heard. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I did, and it's all a long process of understanding yourself, right? So at first, I think I was rebelling because I felt so stuck that I needed to just like, can I curse here? Can I curse on this?
Of course.
I think I already cursed.
Go ahead.
Then I was just like, fuck everyone and everything. I'm going to wear the tiniest clothes and you're going to watch me shake my ass and I don't care anymore. And I think at first I was rebelling. And then after about a year of that, I thought to myself, I was like, I enjoy this, but like, let me sit with myself and see if any part of me has changed and see what feels the most right to me in this moment. And I think that's what's really important when it comes to our sexuality and how it relates to dance is every once in a while, check back in with yourself and ask yourself, have I enjoyed what I've been doing so far? Does it feel the most authentic to who I am right now? How can I move forward in the most authentic way possible and honoring the sexuality that I have right now, you know? So yeah, that's what it made me think of. Compliance. Oh, rebellion is just as much of a cage as compliance is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing with checking in with yourself, generally in the dance world, you need to check in with yourself. I feel like for me myself, like each month that I'm like, okay, where am I? Where am I heading? What am I putting out there? Is that still aligning with who I am, you know?
Alignment, yes.
Stay with myself to, you know, not, of course you give a lot of energy and love to others, but at the end of the day, you know, you need to do it because it's your life, your thing, and it's the focus should not be should not be on others. Yeah.
Intentional action over habitual action. Doing things because you actually want to do them and not because you're just used to doing them.
Exactly. And also, like, I think when we talk about dressing, for me personally, it's like I dress for classes the way that I think it's gonna contribute, or let's say the movement I'm gonna do, depending on the style, something that, you know, makes me feel comfortable in my body, to, you know, give some accents to the parts of my body that I feel like moving like that will make it look more comfortable for me, you know. And of course that's also a thing. I think like now I'm so much in my bubble. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go in a bikini, I'm so fine, you know. It's like such a normal thing. I'm just like, oh, I take off my shirt, you know, there we go. And it's just because like, oh, I always like you know, opening up my hair or something like that. It's just like I dance better if I like myself in the mirror, of course, you know. So that's a big thing. But the thing that I keep forgetting, I was also talking with a friend about that. We're dancers, we're in our bubble, because, you know, for some people it's like, okay, you know, you can post a bikini photo if you're on the beach, but everything else is like
which is so weird. That's always been so weird to me, because I'm like, so I'm allowed to show my body on sand, but I'm not allowed to show it anywhere else. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And bikini is okay, but underwear is not okay. But it's the same thing. It covers the same thing.
The same thing.
Why?
Oh my god! I literally like I've always thought this when even when I was little, like because I come from a very sex positive household, a very like open like conversation kind of household, which is probably a big reason why I am the way that I am. But I always thought the same thing. Like, I don't understand what's the difference between me wearing a bikini and me wearing underwear. The underwear usually covers more anyway. I wear Brazilian bikinis, so like I'm so confused by everyone.
That is so true. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. And you know, I think like I got so used to, you know, just I'm like that it kind of sometimes it not shocks me, but I'm like, oh wait, that's just the bubble that I live in. Like if I go like, yeah, because there's the Pride going on this Saturday and I'm excited about it. Like, oh, I'm gonna put on this bikini and I like, you know, I can walk through Vienna in the city and just be like, here I am, you know, and nobody cares. But I can't do that each day because that's like still an exceptional thing to do.
Yes, but then you realize what you realize from that is none of this shit matters. They're just all arbitrary rules, and people just don't like when you don't follow the rules. Like, it doesn't even matter what the rules are. If there are rules and there are people following them, people don't like when you don't follow them, because they're like, well, who are you to change the rules? Because I don't feel free to change the rules. And you're like, well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
If you
I don't
if you
stop
want
you
to wear a
from
bikini, go
changing.
ahead and wear a bikini. Yeah. And it is June, it is Pride Month, and I'm a bisexual girly. And there's just like, there's no reason why we should feel, especially this month, like any shame in our sexuality. Even if you're straight, you were born that way, it's fine. It's not your fault. That's what I always say. I joke. It's not your fault. But regardless of how you identify sexually, this is no month to feel shame or embarrassment in your sexuality, whatever it may be.
Yeah, but each month you should not.
And then each month a little bit more until you're running around the streets naked and free.
Okay, I would love to go to a bit of a different topic now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you and I think like another person, you have an organization where you're trying to maybe you explain, because
sure.
Yeah, because I have some
so
questions.
Me and Tasha J, we collaborated starting at the end of 2023. We launched this like online platform in 2024 where we felt like we had both experienced personally different kinds of sexual misconduct within the dance community. She brought a lot of knowledge from sexual misconduct experiences that she's had in professional work settings as like a backup dancer. And I brought a lot of sexual misconduct experience from being a teacher and a student. And so we brought those two sides together and we created what we call Dancer Safe Space. And it's trying to create an online platform that then connects with our in-person lives in the dance community, predominantly in New York, but everywhere, whoever wants to be included, in addressing the issues with sexual misconduct in the dance community, creating efficient guidelines for being proactive so that these things happen less, and then trying to figure out how to hold people accountable when these things do happen. Because the problem is that there's no like central like organization that's covering all of these bases within the dance community, because the dance community is so random and spread out and individual. And the different parts of the dance community are so separate. So there's also like a Latin version of kind of what we're doing in the commercial dance industry, in the commercial dance scene. The Latin one is run by a few friends of mine and it's called Not Just Chisme. So you'll notice that there's so many, and you speak Spanish, so you know what that means. It means like not just gossip, like this shit is not just gossip, it's really happening. And so there are a few initiatives happening, mine, theirs, etc., but everything's so separate. And we wanted to create like a platform where we can connect people and experiences to try to identify why this is so prevalent in the community and how we can come together to educate and create policies around change when it comes to this so that we can protect dancers, especially younger dancers, because younger dancers, both underage and new to the scene, like young to the scene, are especially vulnerable. That's usually when stuff happens. So we've been working on that. And then the main thing that we had created at the top of the year was the do's and don'ts of sexual misconduct within the dance community, which is like a petition that we had created that lists a very like cohesive, full view of what is okay and not okay within the dance community, especially when it comes to power dynamics. So if you're listening and you feel like reading up and supporting, you can find that at Dancer Safe Space on Instagram. And then the petition is at the link in our bio. We're trying to get as many people to sign as possible so that we can spread the word about this, because I think it's really important. But that's the work that we're doing.
Signed, so go to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to give some examples, like from what is okay, what is not okay, like especially stuff that people might think, oh, it was nothing, you know?
Yeah. So for me, there are like covert and overt forms of sexual misconduct. So they're like the obvious ones, like the classic choreographer saying, if you don't basically scratch my back, I'm not going to give you the job. So just like what happened in the film industry with Me Too movement, that's more of the obvious version of what happens. I think the less obvious version is, let's say my specialty is understanding these nuances in a dance classroom. So in a dance classroom, particularly with a male teacher, female student dynamic, that's usually where you see it the most prevalent. a teacher saying, oh, I can help you, you know, like get signed. Do you want to go to lunch, or like, do you want to talk and we can, you know, go over some stuff? But then the teacher starts flirting or touching in a flirtatious manner, but nothing overtly sexual just yet. But there is like a slow build and slow manipulation that occurs with an inherent power dynamic between a teacher and a student. I think that if you meet someone in that dynamic, you should always treat it with the utmost care, because there will always inherently be a power dynamic within that relationship because of the way that you met, right? Especially if the teacher is like has a foothold in the dance community. So usually what will happen is like a teacher will like touch the thigh or like touch the lower back or say like, oh, you look so sexy today. But because the dance community and like dance in general has like a lot of like heat and sexuality in the work itself, because there's so many like sexual songs, like R&B songs, hip hop songs, the way that we dance, the way that we twerk, what we wear, there is a lot of sexuality injected into the work, which obviously me and you enjoy and have no problem with. I think the problem comes when those lines get blurred outside of the work. So it's one thing to do your job. It's another thing to assume that by doing your job, you have access to someone's body outside of the work. So for me, I've experienced like personally being a student of somebody and basically being like chased by a teacher, like a very well-known teacher, being given drinks. That's a big no-no. Being given alcoholic drinks to students, like from a teacher, particularly for the purpose of like bringing them home. I've been put in positions, like I said earlier in this interview, where I didn't understand how to keep myself safe. When I started taking classes in New York City, I was a legal adult, but I was very naive and very young to the scene. And so when we would all go like party or whatever after class, I would drink, I'd get drunk by accident because I'm such a lightweight and I didn't know myself at the time. I'd end up going home with somebody because their goal the whole time was to bring me home. But they would be my teacher, you know, so certain things like that, that are big no-nos. I think I would also like to work on consent in dance spaces. So like if you're ever in my space, I always ask if I can touch your body before I touch your body. Yeah. Particularly because the space that heels dancers hold is more sexually charged, just like with your connection to your body. And whenever you're exploring your sexuality, because our sexuality is so stigmatized and it's so vulnerable, I think it's really important to be extra careful with how you interact with people's bodies. So I always ask people if I can touch their body before I touch it. This is similar, but not completely related. I always ask for gender identity or preferred pronouns instead of assuming, because that also has to do with like trauma and like processing your individuality and your identity in a dance space. Yeah, certain things like that. And then I also have thought about how our brains are not fully developed as human beings until we're like 25, 26.
Oh, so I thought it's 2021 2-ish.
No, it's older.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm not done yet.
I was gonna say, how old are you again?
What?
But I think you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but actually don't correct me. Just go with what I'm saying. You can Google it if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure that I think it's your frontal lobe. Your frontal lobe is not fully developed until 25, 26. It's slightly different for everybody, but it's around 25. And so a lot of times this stuff happens when people are under 25. And I think that there's something to be said for both life experience and full mental capacity for making good decisions for yourself. Not good decisions like it's your fault if that happens. I don't think it was my fault that certain things happened, but that I could have kept myself safe, but I did not have the full awareness yet. Yeah. And so I think that's also really important to keep in mind. I think oftentimes people turn 18 and then we're like, oh, they're adults. They can make full decisions for themselves. And I think that's true. Treat people like adults. Treat people like they can make decisions for themselves, because they can. However, be aware of the fact that no matter what age, if you're in an unequal power dynamic, there are inequalities at play that the person in power needs to be sensitive to and aware of when they're navigating that space.
Yeah. Because you mentioned it already a few times, I think like this hierarchy thing that we have generally.
Yeah.
I think I said it so many times already in our episodes. I'm such a big not fan of the hierarchy system we have, the way people talk to each other, talk down, especially like talking up is also another thing, but like talk down to people.
Yeah.
And I think like, because that's also some, I know from my friends, they didn't mention some stuff because they were like, oh, this person is established in the dance scene. I'm not gonna get any jobs anymore if I make that public because I'm not there yet, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like a, I don't know. It's so hard to, because I get it when you, and that's also a thing that a friend of mine told me. When she was young, she didn't or she couldn't separate. Was he complimenting me on my dance skills, or was he complimenting me because the way I looked? And she was like, she sometimes wasn't sure if she was invited to a private now, just, but that's another topic. Yeah, I know. Because of her looks or because of the dance skills. I also had another thought that I wanted to ask you actually, because there has been Leon, another episode, but guys, it's in German, so you can put the YouTube translation, you can go watch it still. He was saying, especially he's a hip hop dancer, and after his class, there's often a heels beginner class, and he always makes sure that, you know, when he's waiting for his class, he's not standing there staring and watching because he doesn't want to make the women feel uncomfortable. I had like, that's nearly a year ago now when you guys listened to this one. I had other thoughts. It's like, because I recognize myself that for me it's not, it depends, but sometimes for me it's not about the fact that people look at me while dancing, especially their studios, they have like, you know, like windows like open, you can look into it, you know. It's for me not the fact that you look, it's the way you look, because sometimes it gives like a really weird energy, because there have been people, groups of men standing and watching a heels class, and I was like, I don't care, because I had the feeling like, oh, they're more like admiring, you know, than, you know, like that weird energy of I don't know if you know what I mean. So what are your thoughts on that one? Like, is it the problem of, because we post the videos sometimes from heels classes anyway, like, is the, because I had the feeling if you like, you know, if you say like, okay, there's, you can't watch, is that not even like making sexualizing it even more, the gap even bigger, you know what I mean? I had that thought as well, like, but you know what I mean, like, I'm not like, I'm just like thoughts.
I think it depends on the person. So if you're in a place where you feel pretty embodied and healed within your journey, re-understanding and redefining your relationship with your body and your sexuality, like for me, for example, I feel pretty confident in those areas. So I don't mind if people watch. I think, again, there, like you said, there is a way of watching where I can tell that you're seeing me as an artist and a person. And there's a way of watching where you're seeing me as an object and thinking about what I do for you. But the difference is not everybody feels that way. So let's say you're in the beginning of your healing journey or your heels journey, one and the same, your healing and your heels journey. If you're towards the beginning of that, or you are, you know, processing things that have happen to your body, or if you're processing how to love your body, then you might not want any eyes on you, because that's a personal journey, and I respect that as well. So I think it depends on the person, and that's why you see not every single person in a class will post their heels video, only some of them will. So I think it is a personal choice. But I also understand the idea that there are different ways of seeing things. There are different perceptions. So like when we post our dance videos, our heels videos, we are posting them with a sense of pride and empowerment and artistry. And we are hoping that people see it like that as well. But obviously you can only control yourself. So some people might see it like that, and other people might see it like that is a body, and thinking about how that body can be of service to them. So I think that's kind of what you were getting at, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like a point for me is also like, it hardly, or I don't know, like I think it's a cultural thing as well, because the way, I'm gonna talk about Austrians, guys, don't hate me. No, but like, of course, Austria, the general culture, it's colder, because, you know, we're not like a warm culture where we, you know, it's like we have more distance, it takes us a little time to get close to somebody. We're all nice, we're all loving, open, most of us, you know, but like it takes us more time. And I also have the feeling, you know, of course Austria has a conservative history, or still has. That's, yeah, I think dancers are like, again, in their bubble. So the conception of the white cis man, how he looks at you in Austria, is another perception, you know, as, I don't know, somebody who lives in, I don't know, a warmer country where it's normal that you run around in bikinis.
I tend to think about, and I've never been to Brazil before, and I don't know much about the culture, but I think about Brazil because you said
Carnival.
bikinis, because I think what I've seen, and I could be wrong, but what I've seen culturally is that there's a greater acceptance of showing your body regardless of body type. Like it's really beautiful because people of like women of all body types will be wearing what would be considered the Brazilian bikini, which is like tiny, tiny, tiny. Like I wear this bikini brand that one of my students owns called Gatakini, and she's Brazilian, and all of them are like super tiny. And I think it's kind of the idea of like, when you are not trying to hide something so much, then people are able to embrace it in a different way. If you're trying to hide it, it seems like there should be shame around it. Like our brains correlate hiding with shame, you know? So I think that's kind of where your head was at in terms of like, if something is off limits, it's then seen as like sexy and dangerous, and almost like you're not taught how to embrace it in a healthy way because nobody is talking about it and nobody is processing it as a community, you know?
Yeah, I heard a really beautiful story from a friend of mine again. She's half Cuban, and she told me when she was living there for some, I have never been to Cuba, so I have no idea, guys. I'm just gonna like share that one. She told me the area she lived in, they barely had internet. That was like 5-6 years ago, and back like 6 years ago they didn't had internet in all the places yet. I don't know how it is now. And
it's still kind of, I'm Cuban.
Okay. I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
I'm half Cuban. I've never been to Cuba. I'm not fully knowledgeable, so I'm not going to claim to be more knowledgeable than I am, but it seems like that is still the case largely in a lot of places. Okay.
And she told me because of that, you know, they don't have a lot of access to social media. They don't have a lot of access to the beauty standards that we have, you know. So when she was there, she told me that the way that women walk through the streets, the way their confidence is, doesn't matter how they look like especially for our European Western eye that is like, you know, focused on our beauty standard that we have. Those women were walking around, doesn't matter how they look, how they were like, the way they spoke with so much confidence, because why shouldn't they? But they had no idea of the beauty standards. Also the men, how they like appreciate the women, you know, and how they also don't have that. You know what I want to say? When she told me that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess we're so primed because of course what we see on social media everywhere, of course, you know, but like if you don't have that, it's easier to have confidence, I guess. But you should generally. So that's what I was thinking of when you but I have never been to Cuba. I have no idea, but like
I haven't either. I just know of stories from like my family and stuff like that, but I think that's really interesting, and it shows you that just like we talk about all the time when it comes to beauty standards in the media, years ago it would have been like someone who was stick thin with no butt, big boobs were a big thing, you know, small nose, very like delicate features. And now it's like slim thick. Yeah, that's like the big thing. Slim thick, tiny waist, big butt, big boobs, you know, a little bit more meat on you, usually very unattainable depending on what kind of body you were actually born with. But it just changes depending on what is being pushed out there and who and what is popular at any given time, because beauty standards are constantly changing and they're going to be different 10 years from now. You know?
Yeah, that is so true.
So that's why I think it's so beautiful that when it comes to our sexuality, because your sexuality is a relationship to what I consider to be like the sexual pleasure sensors of your body, and this very specific kind of like divine feminine energy, that our heels classes allow you to embrace your body more and get to know your body better, the body that you have been born with and the body that is your home for your whole life, so that you can have a safer relationship to your body and to your sexuality.
I want to sprinkle something in because that keeps
Yeah.
happening to me right now. Sprinkle, sprinkle. For me, it's not even about I don't go to Pilates classes because I want to have abs. I don't, like my way of doing sports, I don't do sports, me personally, because I want to look a certain way, but because it allows me to move the way I want to move.
Yes.
And you know what the beautiful moments that I'm currently having more than normally is like I watch myself and I'm like, since when can we do that? Since when are we able to do that trick? Where does that strength come from? Why do we have stability? And I'm like, wow, my body can do that, and I get really excited, happy. I'm like, wow, you can do that. I'm like, and that's like, of course, it's my body, but I'm like, you don't recognize it. And it's not like I don't do it because of the fact I want to look like that, but it's more of it allows me to do my art the way I want to do it.
Yes.
With how I'm training. But I love those moments where I'm like, so like, I'm like, wow, my body can do that. And that sounds maybe a little weird, but you get what I mean? It's like, I'm like,
it's exciting. You've trained your body to have more ability and more freedom.
Yeah, and suddenly it works. And suddenly it's like you can do stuff that you never. I gave you an example. You know that one bridge where like on the floor you jump up like that? Yeah. I was like, I think I injured my back once doing that because I was like, oh my God, you need to be more flexible. You don't the fuck need to be flexible. You need to have the core strength to do that. And they haven't been doing that since a year. And then I had an injury, an even bigger one, whatever. That's why I started Pilates. It doesn't matter now. For the people who know the story, you know the story. And I didn't ever train that again. And like, I think a month ago, randomly in a choreography, or somebody was like, we were fooling around after class and we're like trying. I was like, the first try I was able to do that. I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just an emphasis on moving your body for reasons beyond how you look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I think like having appreciation for your body, what it does for you, like not only, let's not talk about tricks, but like let alone to get up in the morning, that your body's digesting for you, you can walk, you can, you should be so thankful for all of that because your body is like, it's your temple, of course,
Well, that's why I always encourage my students, like there's a phrase that I really love that says, in order to love someone, you have to deeply know that person. So like the knowing comes first and then the loving comes after, because you can't love someone that you don't know. And so the same thing with your own self and your own body, like you can't deeply love yourself unless you know yourself. So, and having an appreciation for yourself. And I usually talk about how there are these two concepts on social media. There's body love or body positivity, and then there's body neutrality. But I feel like something in between those two can be body appreciation. So if you're struggling with loving your body because it doesn't feel genuine to you, then you can think about all the ways that you can appreciate your body and the way that it acts for you and functions for you, so that you can live the life that you have and you can have the best experiences possible, because you are your body. You can't separate yourself from your body. So if you learn to appreciate yourself little by little, I think that it can lead to a knowing and a love of you and your body, because you're learning to appreciate the things that it can do for you, instead of only being neutral about it all the time, and instead of jumping to loving your body when it doesn't feel authentic yet.
I need to go back to something you said, that you can only love somebody when you truly get to know them. But like the point of, I mean, like depends on the way of love we talk, but also how I got to know you. I felt really loved in your class when I was like, the first time I went to your class. That's why we're here today. So and you also told me, if I'm allowed to share, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna cut it out afterwards.
No, go ahead.
That a friend of yours said, that he doesn't owe this person to be loving to him or her because this person is not his or her friend.
It's the kind of idea, like the concept that if you're not friends with someone, or if you're not a part of my life, then I don't owe you anything. And when we were talking about that, I was telling you how I don't really believe in that, because I think just by way of being human beings on this earth, we owe each other a certain level of kindness and respect. And I think what I do is instead of starting from zero and then someone earning their respect, I start from respect, and you can either keep it or you can lose it depending on how you act, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we were talking about when it came to,
Exactly.
respect. But where were you going with that when we
I
first
was
met?
going with, because you were saying you can only love somebody once you get to know them. But I
Yeah.
think you can give and show, like, my opinion, you can give and show love. Of course, the way that I can love you when I
Yes.
get to know you is different. But like, I give a lot of love, and I'm gonna give you love even though I don't know you. You know?
Yes.
Because why shouldn't I?
Yes,
That was
but
my
it's the
point.
difference between the action of love and like the feeling, I suppose. Like you can
Okay.
act in love, you can give people love,
Mhm.
but it's the difference between how you love someone when you first meet them and how you love them when you get to know them and you realize that they're just like so magical. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, the kind of love changes and
Mhm.
it deepens because it becomes more real. Because the more you know them, if you still love them, that shit becomes more real and more grounded in something deeper. So I think it's like whenever I meet people, I show them love, but there's no way for me to fully love you in the way of like an intimate relationship or a familial relationship until you know each other. I think it's also like when I teach, I feel a lot of love for my students because I'm really seeking to see them. I think if you're hiding, like let's say you are trying not to look at yourself in the mirror when you're dancing, if you're hiding from yourself because you don't want to face yourself and you don't want to get to know yourself, then you can't love yourself because you're not trying to see yourself. You have to, at the very least, try to know and try to see the people who are in front of you. So even if you don't know them fully yet, you can have a certain level of love for them if you're really trying to see them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Just wanted
Yeah.
to
Tie that together.
evaluate that sentence a little bit. Yeah, exactly. For me,
Yeah.
it's also, I give you a lot of love, and as you said, we're starting from, and I respect you. I don't care about the hierarchy thing. You have my respect. Like, I don't care where
Yeah.
you are in life. That's like a thing, you know. But of
Yeah.
course, like you said, if you do something to disrespect me in whatever way, of course, you know, the dynamic changes a little, and I'm still gonna love you, but you're not
But
gonna
it
be
won't be in the same way.
from far away. I wish you the best.
Yeah.
But you can be, or you can go and be great somewhere else, but not with
Yes.
me.
Just not
You
next
know?
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because I
Okay.
think that's the difference. Like, I start from there, like you do, and a lot of people start from here. And I think that if we all, as a human community, like a worldwide community, started from
Mhm.
respecting people's humanity, then the
Mhm.
world in a lot of ways would be very different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have also the feeling in the dance, and it's like, you know, or I had the feeling till I got taught differently. You
Mm-hmm.
need to fight to be respected, to have a position, to be like, you need to do something. But
Yeah.
actually, you just need to be yourself, be a kind person, and just do what you love. You don't need to, like, you know, I don't want to use the word fighting, but sometimes life feels like fighting. But I think like the stuff that is meant to be for you or the way you approach it, you never need to fight because, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna come
It's
in.
following your intuition, following what feels right. And that kind of
Yeah,
brings us back to the beginning of what we were speaking about when it comes
full
to,
circle moment.
yeah, when it comes to following what feels right. And
Mhm.
I've also heard the idea like going towards the things that feel warm and going away from the things that feel cold. Like cold would be wrong and warm would be right, you know? So
Mhm.
that's another way to think about it.
And I
And
think
not
like,
having to fight for your respect because as human beings we should respect each other anyway, and if you feel like you're
exactly.
needing to like put up such a fight to be respected, then that's not the right place for you.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to go with that one. And I love the warm cold idea because I think like that's a thing that you have in your intuition. Sometimes we just need to trust our intuition a little bit
Yes.
more. You know?
But that's the problem is intuition is data processed too quickly for your brain to understand.
Mhm.
So that data is understood in your body first. Your body absorbs information faster than your brain can process it because your brain
Mhm. It's
your
not fully
brain
developed yet.
processes yeah. Well,
Sorry.
mine is.
Oh, sorry. Yours is, mine is not.
But your brain processes and then puts into language, like into words, into your vocabulary, what it should be feeling, but your body understands right away. That's why when you have like a gut, that's why they call it a gut feeling, because it's the feeling that you have in your body before your brain has fully processed what's happening yet. So it's learning to trust your body. And that's what we're doing in our heels classes. We're teaching people how to trust their body and go towards what feels right.
Okay, I think that's a beautiful circle moment, and we're gonna come a little bit to an end. Though I would love to keep
Sure.
talking with you, but we already have an hour, I think a bit more. So,
Ah,
the last two questions, I would love to give you the space, to say some words at the end, whatever you feel like you need to put out there. Is there anything left that you want to say? People can be advice, can be critics, can be whatever. What do you want to give away at the end of this episode?
yeah. Well, because we were speaking so much about our bodies, our sexuality, heels dancing, um, what I want to leave everybody with is that your sexuality is literally the most natural thing of your human existence. Things that we need to continue life are sleep, water, food, but we wouldn't be here and nobody else would be here if sex didn't happen. I'm sorry if this is the first time that you're hearing this, but your parents fucked and that's why you're here.
Let's go.
And so I think it's really important for us to re-embrace that idea that our sexuality is very natural and allow ourselves to explore that and express it as if it's the same as drinking water, sleeping, eating, because it's the reason why we're all here and there's no shame that has anything to do with that. And even if you are in something that is not heteronormative, if you identify in a space that is not heteronormative, your God, or like at least my God, you know, my God, she would not have given me these like pleasure buttons in my body if she didn't want me to use them. So I'm just doing what God is asking me to do. And your body is created to be able to give you pleasure. So I think just inherently by your body being your body, you don't have to shy away from that pleasure. Every single person has the ability to feel pleasure in different ways. So honoring your body is also honoring that pleasure and vice versa. And it's Pride Month, so I want you to go explore your body. If it's on your own, if it's with a partner, if it's in a dance classroom, explore your body a little bit more, get in touch with yourself, and see the magic that can come about appreciating your body and appreciating the sexuality that it can provide.
Amazing. I'm so fucking happy we did this. There's one last thing left that people who know already, as always. So the most random question I'm gonna bring up this little exchange here. What's the most random emoji you're using currently?
Random? Should I say my favorite emoji?
Yeah, sure.
I'll do two. I'll do two.
Okay.
One, my favorite, and then the random one, right? My favorite one is the devil that looks like this.
Oh, the violet
The
one.
purple devil with a smile.
Okay, the smiling one.
Yes. Because I think there's a smiling one and a frowning one, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like the frowning one. I'm not evil. I'm just like sneaky, you know?
Let's go.
And then the other one that I like to use is the one where like, I don't know what the eyes, it's a circle, it's like a face, like a yellow face, but then the mouth is all like squiggly. So it's like, and it's all like a squiggly mouth. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
I don't know how to do it with my face. It's like unnatural.
Wait, the one that has like a little blush?
Oh girl, I don't know if she's wearing blush.
Guys, we're gonna figure out. You're gonna send me
I'm
one,
gonna
and then I'm
send
gonna
it to
put
you.
it. Yeah.
Yes, and then you can put it because it's really funny. And what people don't know about me, if you only see me on Instagram, is like I can be very like clumsy, and I feel, I don't think people say this about me, but like I feel like I can be awkward and like a little socially awkward. So if you're a socially awkward girly, like feel comfortable with me. But that's like a socially awkward, like funny little emoji. One is like the powerful, like fierce, flirty emoji, and the other one is like, yeah.
I love that. I love it. Okay, guys. So you know what to do if you've listened to this point. You better go to the YouTube comments, to the Instagram comments, to whatever post we have with Emma Rosa, and you comment that emoji. We want to see you guys. If you've listened to the episode, we want to see the love. We want to spread some love, some support. So, yeah, show us what you have taken out of this episode. Yeah, guys, make sure to follow us on Instagram. Our Instagrams have been tagged down below already the whole episode. So also make sure to follow Grenzenlos, your dance podcast on Instagram. And don't forget that we currently have a collaboration going on with Sister Dancer. Instagram link down below as well right now, and the website. So if you use our code podcast10, you get 10% off of your whole purchase. Only valid for the rest of this August, so you better hurry. Okay, so Emma, thank you so much for everything. for making time, for being the human you are, for spreading so much love. And yeah, I hope we do this again one day.
Thank you, Mommy, for having me. And thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope to connect with you guys outside of this. And thank you so much for having me and having this conversation.
Bye, guys. See you next week.